Strangers from distant lands, friends of old. Today we will investigate the mystery surrounding Finrod's dagger as we have witnessed during the first season of Rings of Power. We will inspect each relevant scene and come up with a conclusion that reveals the nature of the dagger as well as how integral it is for Sauron's plans. Finrod's dagger has been in the center of the action. It signified Galadriel's dedication to his brother Finrod, as well as served an important part in the forging of the three elven rings. We have multiple evidence to believe that it had a deeper function in Sauron's plans and it will have an impact for the next seasons. Let's begin. The first time we see the dagger was in the first episode, where Finrod was using it to hoist the paper ship up in Valinor. As we shall see, this is the start of the many close-up views of the dagger in the upcoming dialogues. The next time we see the dagger was while Galadriel was lamenting his brother's death. We see the dagger on Finrod's body without much explanation given on how it ended up there. This is rather interesting as thinking about it, why was the dagger near his body in the first place? Why weren't there any other items? Even though we have no information on how Finrod met his death, was it the only item that the elves were able to recover with his body? By themselves, these questions could easily be dismissed, yet with additional evidence, it may play a role to uncover a dark plan. Then Galadriel takes the dagger from Finrod's grasp as a sign of continuing his oath, and her quest on taking revenge for his brother's death begins. The first time the dagger played a decisive role was during Galadriel's voyage from Middle-earth to Valinor. We hear her conversation with Finrod from her childhood playing in the background, and then see her jump ship at the last moment. The dagger seems like a symbolic reminder, but this might prove to be a darker sign in the light of the upcoming findings. In episode 2, after the attack by the sea monster, we saw a storm striking Sauron's raft. Galadriel fell into the sea where part of the raft carried her down. Sauron dived and tried to rescue her. While saving Galadriel, trying to untie the rope, Sauron saw the dagger and was quite surprised, and eventually used it to set her free. After Elendil saves Galadriel and Sauron, we see Galadriel talking to Elendil regarding their whereabouts. It seems Elendil took the dagger from her as a precaution. On the deck, after Elendil tells them that they are going home, we see Galadriel making a move to grasp the dagger. This is not the first nor the only time that we saw Galadriel behaving similarly. The first time was when she was resistant towards the helper elf on the ship to Valinor. The other time, although we are jumping ahead, was when Theo made a move to get the dagger to attack the orcs and she really overreacted against him. Moreover, Sam and Bilbo showed similar behavior in the Lord of the Rings movies. Remember how Sam behaved when Frodo asked the ring back? And also how Bilbo behaved towards Frodo when he saw the ring again. The similarities between the effect of the ring and the dagger on their wielder are quite similar. After their talk in Numenor, Sauron stole the dagger from Elendil and gave the dagger back to Galadriel. As Halbrand, we might have thought it was just a sign of goodwill between friends, but Sauron's actions are never charitable, and most probably, he was trying to make sure Galadriel kept it as a part of his plans. Besides the actions in Numenor, in episode 5, we quickly saw that Sauron was forging some blades during his conversation with Galadriel. Why was he doing this? Why so many blades? Is it for himself? For others? The blades have some unique design, and not only that, we have already seen them before. Each soldier seems to wear one of these blades. Not a good sign given the controlling nature of Sauron. In episode 6, we had a gripping scene between Adar, Galadriel and Sauron. During their talk, Adar suspiciously did not look Galadriel in the eye, mostly checking out the dagger in her hand. If you pay attention to Adar's eyes, his focus is really on the dagger during the talk. After Galadriel loses her temper, she makes a small cut on Adar's neck. If we observe Adar's expression carefully, we can see he flinched and gasped. More interestingly, it was just after this scene Adar asked Sauron who he was. Could it be that the last time he saw the dagger was in the hands of Sauron? In episode 8, Galadriel got suspicious of the identity of Halbrand and started questioning. Just before she was able to strike him with the dagger, Sauron put Galadriel into a dreamlike state. We saw Sauron impersonating Finrod, and to distinguish between the two, let's call this character Fake Road. At the beginning of the scene, we saw Finrod taking the dagger from Galadriel's hand and saying,
My old dagger. You've kept it safe all this time.
First of all, as we have learned throughout the first season, Sauron rarely lies. He deceives, yes, he manipulates, yes, but not really blatantly lie. Could he really be saying that this dagger belonged to him after killing Finrod? Finrod continued to say, You needn't lie to them, simply let the work proceed, meaning the forging of the rings. Why would he care at this point? We know that he ran away after Galadriel rejected him. His mission has failed as he will not participate in the forging itself, right? Or perhaps he set things in motion so that his immediate presence is not required anymore. He just needs to nudge Galadriel on the right track. After Galadriel argues with Finrod, we see Sauron and Galadriel on the sea. After a brief exchange of words, we hear Sauron say,
You told me once that we were brought together for a purpose. This is it. You bind me to the light, and I bind you to power.
Could the word "this" refer to the dagger? Why is he making sure that she keeps the dagger all the time? Does the dagger have an integral part to play in his plans? When Galadriel took the dagger, she denied Sauron again. Sauron gave a quick look at the dagger and started saying,
I will never be at your side.
You have no choice. Without me, your people will fade, and the shadow will spread and darken to cover all the world. You need me.
I should have left you on the sea.
A sea that you were on because the elves cast you out. They cast you out for deigning to beg them for a few petty soldiers. What will they do when you tell them that you are my ally? When you tell them that Sauron lives because of you?
If we analyze the scene deeper, we can see that he essentially used his master plan again, which he told Galadriel in the previous episode.
In an instance like this, it seems to me that you do well to identify what it is that your opponent most fears.
And exploit it.
No. Give them a means of mastering it, so that you can master them.
With this, he made sure Galadriel would not reveal his identity and keep the plan moving. Again, this is not the first time a character has looked at the dagger and found some inspiration. We witnessed this when Galadriel taunted Adar in episode 6, where she basically followed Sauron's suggestion just after looking at the dagger. She threatened him to hurt the orcs by sunlight so that Adar would cave in and start talking. In the end, she succeeded. After Sauron ran away, Galadriel returned to the forge again without sharing any information about Sauron. Celebrimbor tells Galadriel that, I have determined that the purity of the lesser ores in the alloy is crucial. I need gold and silver of the most exquisite quality. I need gold and silver from Valinor. I need your dagger. True creation requires sacrifice. What an interesting statement. Not long ago, perhaps a matter of hours, he had no idea of using alloys, and now he has determined that the purity is crucial and he needs gold and silver. Could Celebrimbor be using statements that he did not originally think of? Let's recall Celebrimbor's line to Gil-galad.
It was only in speaking with the Southlander that I realized...
The low man? This idea was his?
His suggestions were but the key that unlocked the dam. We are on the cusp of crafting a new kind of power. Not of strength, but of spirit. Not of the flesh, but over flesh. This is a power of the unseen world.
Let's also remember Adar's words regarding Sauron.
He sought to craft the power, not of the flesh, but over flesh. The power of the unseen world.
The similarity is crystal clear, and it is that Sauron had direct link to both of these characters. It is obvious that Sauron has been feeding information and tricking Celebrimbor, and therefore it is quite probable that the one who decided that the purity in the alloy is important and gold and silver from Valinor is needed was Sauron himself. This description perfectly fits the dagger, so Sauron had already planned its use during the forging. At the end, Galadriel caves in, she sacrifices the dagger for the forging of the three rings. Having all these information in hand, a pattern emerges, by which we can list some important findings as follows. Finrod's dagger was lost for an unknown amount of time. After looking at the dagger, Galadriel changed her mind from going to Valinor. Galadriel has shown overreaction towards people who tried to grasp the dagger. Sauron stole the dagger from Elendil and gave it back to Galadriel. Sauron has forged blades in Numenor, which are worn by Numenor soldiers. Adar recognized the dagger and flinched after being cut by it. Sauron has called the dagger of his own. Sauron told Galadriel that they were brought together for a purpose, and the dagger was it. Via Celebrimbor, Sauron made sure that the dagger was used during the forging of the three elven rings. Finally, we have come to our conclusion. Given all the evidence, we can finally fill in the missing parts of the story in the first season. After killing Finrod, Sauron must have taken the dagger and used it in his experiments which Adar talked about previously. This dark magic could have cursed the dagger and granted it some evil features. After being split open by Adar, Sauron's relics could have been discarded, which were eventually found by the elves. Once Galadriel took possession of the dagger, her behavior started to change for the worse. She became obsessed, quick-tempered, and less elf-like. Sauron was telling the truth that they were brought together for a purpose, which was essentially Galadriel bringing this cursed item back to Sauron. And from Sauron's perspective, it is fate that his old dagger would come to him in the middle of the sea, an item he put great effort into, leading to forging items of power that he can manipulate the wearer. That is why Sauron wanted to make sure Galadriel kept the dagger by her side until it was ready to be used as a part of his plans. In line with the forging of the rings, Sauron influenced and tricked Celebrimbor to forge the rings with this cursed dagger. He did it so intelligently that his direct presence was not needed to contaminate the rings. His main goal was to forge the rings in a way that he will be controlling them using the cursed Finrod's dagger as the alloy. Moreover, as we have discussed in a dedicated video, Sauron's time in Eregion helped them discover the way mithril should be used during forging. Sauron must have been experimenting with items, changing them, cursing them to achieve this unseen power by which these items have gained new features to affect the behavior of the wielder. This is why Galadriel has been acting strangely throughout the first season. During the Second Age, Sauron has started to use items such as blades and daggers to craft the power of this unseen world. But these were merely proto-rings, and he mastered his craft using the rings of power and eventually the One Ring. Therefore, Sauron was the Lord of the Blades before he was the Lord of the Rings.